So today I'm going to go over JavaScript loops and arrays. This is going to be another absolute beginner tutorial in JavaScript. So let's talk about arrays. Let's make an array. Const r1, so this will be, we're defining an array. It's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty generic array. So this is just going to be a list of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I also want to show you that you can do more than just one thing in an array. So we'll say hello world, true, 0. And we can even make an object. We'll say A is B. So this is a valid array as well in JavaScript. So what happens when we print these out? We'll console log r1, r2. Let's see what happens. And there you go. There's array 1. There's array 2. We mix strings, booleans, numbers, and an object all together in that array. Okay, let's talk about array methods. There are 3 main array methods. If you would like to, you can consult the Mozilla Developer Network web docs. These are the best JavaScript documentation sites on the internet. All of these Mozilla Developer Network sites. So you've got push, pop, shift, and unshift. These are the manipulation of an array. Just for moving elements around in them. So let's see what they do. r1.push. What this is going to do is push something onto the end of the list. So now if I console log this again, after push, we'll say r1. All right, it pushed a 10 on the end. Okay, let's do r1.pop. Pop takes no arguments, so what do you think pop does? Console.log after pop r1. Alright, popped a thing off the end of the array. So push pushes a new element at the end of the array, and pop pops an element off the end of the array. I'm going to comment this out just because that's a lot of noise in our console here. So let's do the next one, shift. Let's say array1, and then I'm going to go over both. We've got shift and unshift. So let's do array1 shift. Console.log after shift. There we go. So what happened? It removed an element from the beginning of the array. How about r1.unshift? Let's put on the number 7. That's a good number. Console.log after unshift arr1. All right, so our array now has a 7 on it. Those are the basic methods to manipulate the elements in an array. So how about looping? You probably want to loop over an array at some point if you're making arrays. So let's look at that. So there are a couple of ways, but the easiest way is on the array itself. There's something called foreach, and foreach is a function that takes a function. So watch this. This is going to be an arrow function, and we'll say foreach element, and then I'm going to iterate over the elements. Print that out. So what's happening here? This is basically a loop. This is basically a for loop. The only trick is, instead of making a loop construct, which we'll also go over, you're calling a function each time you want to iterate over it. So each position in the index, and this is kind of nice because it takes a second argument here, and you can get the index position in the array index. I'm at position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this function gets called how many ever times there are elements in the array. It seems inefficient, but all of this stuff is kind of optimized, so it's not super terribly inefficient. Let's look at the vanilla for loop though. So we'll say for And then this is the for loop that's C style, so you'll say let I equals 0, I is less than r1.length, I plus plus. Then you'll say console.log for loop. And how do you access the element? You say r1, and then you access it just like normal C style, where you put brackets and then you put the index position, sorry, I. You put the index position you want to access. So similar, right? You get the same result, it's just the syntax is a little different. This is kind of nice because it has a built-in function on array, but this is the classic way to do it. It's a little bit hairier in the syntax, but just you want to probably memorize just a regular syntax to do this, where you start at 0, you compare at less than a length, and then you iterate by a single index, and then you'll loop over each index position by 1. Let's talk about other things in arrays. So arrays, a lot of times you might want to remove something. There's a function called splice. This is how you can remove it. You take the position and where you want to remove, and then how many items you want to remove. So that's removing one item. And then there's another copying system where you can say just slice. And actually slice does more than this. You can put arguments in slice, but if you want to just make a straight up copy of an array, it's a shallow copy, by the way, you can say whatever array.slice. So these are other methods on the array, splice and slice. The other thing you can do, you can initiate an array or initialize an array with this new array syntax. It almost never makes sense to do that, though. It almost never makes sense to do this, because you can always just do a array literal like this. So that's basically it for the array. There are some other fancier things in here, but for the most part, if you want to use an array, you can initialize it like this. You can push extra things onto it with push and pop. Shift and unshift are helpful too. And then if you want to iterate, you can use foreach, or you can try to use the vanilla for loop that is in almost every C style language. All right, like it or subscribe it if you liked it. Thanks for watching.